Welcome. Good afternoon. We want to thank you for joining iGoodNotes today for this presentation on how to attract clients and build a thriving private practice. I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Chloe Carmichael. She is a licensed clinical psychologist with a master's degree and PhD in clinical psychology. She also runs a private practice with multiple therapists in New York City and is the published author of the book Nervous Energy: Harness the Power of Your Anxiety, which has actually been endorsed by Deepak Chopra. She is a member of the American Psychological Association, the National Register of Health Psychologists, and a featured expert for Psychology Today. So I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Carmichael now.
Thank you so much. It's really great to be with you today. I'm really excited to share. As a clinical psychologist myself, went into private practice maybe 10 or 12 years ago. Didn't even know if I could fill my own little one chair. I was so afraid of, how would I even stay in business? Because that is something that they simply don't teach us in graduate school, right? They teach us all kinds of great therapy skills, but they don't teach us, at least in my program and many others, they don't really teach us much about how to actually get the clients and how to run the practice from the business side. So I was actually really delighted that the things I was doing that I figured out partly by myself and reading books and talking to other people were successful to the point where I very soon had to hire, like within a couple months, I had to hire other therapists. My practice grew to the point where I was able to join entrepreneurs organization where there's a minimum of $1 million annually in revenue to join. I'm not saying this to brag at all. I just want to share this with you because I want to establish my credibility with you. I can imagine from your perspective, you might be asking yourself, who is Dr. Chloe and why should I listen to her, right, about building a practice? So I'm just sharing with you about some things that have worked for me in my practice. Obviously, if you can take what works here for you today and discard the rest. This is all just some ideas to help to support you because, of course, every practice is different. But one thing that I've noticed that therapists sometimes struggle with is really giving themselves a sense of permission to go for it, right? To be able to say, is it really okay for me as a therapist in the first place to want to have a successful practice, to want and be focused on attracting a large base of private pay clients that are going to be paying private pay fees, and for me to be focused in any way, shape, or form on the bottom line and the profit side of my practice, or is that in competition with my commitment to provide help to underserved populations and the side of me that's empathetic and compassionate? How do those two things go together? And so I just think it's really important to address that question at the start, because then I think we'll really feel free and feel like we do have permission. So I want to first consider the question, would you be glad if you had more resources to share with others, right? Because of course, the more that we have, the more that we can share. So just one simple example of that is that my practice, for example, donates to charity. This is a charity that we donate to. It's called Kiva. We make microloans to female entrepreneurs in developing countries. Also we're able to do a small amount of pro bono or low fee clients. And the reason we're able to do those things is because of the fact that my practice is not shy about recognizing that we are a business, right? So I just want to start with that piece, that if you have any questions or you feel insecure about going towards a goal, as mental health workers, we all know that if people don't feel comfortable pursuing something, then sometimes they can block themselves almost unconsciously. So if you feel like you have blocks about that, I would really invite you to reflect on the fact that the more you have, the more that you can give. And so really to give yourself permission to do that. Now, once you've given yourself permission to do that and you've said, okay, I want to attract private pay clients that are going to give me the financial latitude so that I can take good care of myself, my family, my community, etc. then we can start thinking about how to attract those clients. And as therapists, we actually have to put on our empathy hat, which I know many of us are good at in the therapy room. Now we have to kind of put on that empathy hat as we're thinking about attracting clients. Now, the type of client typically that is really set up to flourish in a private pay practice is typically a higher functioning client. Okay, so clients with severe and persistent mental illness, for example, are typically best served in a clinic setting where you have a staff psychiatrist, a team of social workers, a mobile crisis unit, all the types of services that those types of clients need and deserve to have. When you're just a small private practice, typically the best type of client is going to be a higher functioning client, someone who knows how to put in a recurring appointment in their calendar and be there on time and make use of their time and observe a late cancellation policy, all those types of things. So we have to kind of reverse engineer and think, if we want to have a successful private practice business, we may want to think about the types of clients that tend to flourish in that business, which tend to be clients who are higher functioning. So when we think about how to attract those clients, I will tell you, in my experience, it tends to help to emphasize strengths rather than pathology, right? So instead of saying, like in your Psychology Today ad, do you feel debilitated, by severe trauma, and, like you're under a rock and you can't get out? My skills will, unearth your darkest times, and, all that kind of stuff. In my personal experience, what has actually been more successful messaging to attract high functioning clients has been messaging that actually recognizes their strengths, that says, you are probably doing pretty well in your life in general. Maybe you have a job and you have a relationship, but you're feeling a little bit of emptiness inside, and you're looking for a way to tune back into yourself and what matters. Or, maybe things are going well for you on the job front, but you're struggling with control issues to really find the right partner, and it's a big anxiety provoking space for you. And I'm here to unpack that with you and see if we can move you forward to help you to get where you want to go, right? So once you feel like you've got a good handle on the positive strengths that you're harnessing for your clients, what I would suggest at that point then is that you put it into what we call an elevator pitch. Some of you may know what that is, some of you may not. It's just kind of a basic business term, so that you can say what you do in a nutshell so quickly that if you were riding up an elevator with somebody, you could tell them in a nutshell what you do. So, for example, you might say, I help driven, intelligent people to harness the strengths that they already have to meet the next level in their life, or to increase their levels of fulfillment, or to just stay engaged and really feel like they're living their best life, right? If you can describe what you do in a short, kind of upbeat sentence, then that's helpful. I find it's also helpful to try to avoid academic jargon, language that might have impressed our clinical psychology professors, but that just causes your average everyday person to say, I don't really know what you're talking about. And so a way to test that is to practice your elevator pitch and then get practice. So tell your elevator pitch to two or three friends and ask them to repeat back to you what you just said. And then you will find out if, you're actually really being as clear and cogent as you mean to be. Because, the more education we have in an area, the easier it is for us to accidentally make something more academic than it needs to be. And as an extra challenge, because this is such an important part of attracting clients, as we'll see as we get into this, because this will be very prominent in your Psychology Today profile and on your website. And when you're talking to potential clients and they say, so tell me about yourself, what do you do? This elevator pitch is going to be kind of your verbal calling card, right? So I would even encourage you, as you see at this last bullet point, try creating 3 of them, right? Just three totally separate takes that kind of describe what you do in three totally different ways. Try them on for size and see which one really works for you. Now, once you get a good elevator pitch, so for example, here's another one. I work well with clients seeking to help with stress management, relationship issues, goal attainment, or issues related to emotion and self-esteem. My ideal clients are professionals who are seeking results, right? You want to put that, front and center. This is my Psychology Today profile here. It sets the right tone for people, and it tends to attract, again, the types of clients that are typically going to function well in a private practice setting. And again, it doesn't have to be that you're necessarily seeking professionals. Maybe you work with students or youth, but nevertheless, I think you get the idea that you are looking for students or youth or whoever it is that tend to be organized and focused and goal-oriented types of people. Now, one other little tip I have for you as far as attracting those clients is that we all want to be prominent in Psychology Today. If you're not in Psychology Today, definitely do that. But if you are in Psychology Today and you're wondering how you could get, really maximize your ad, I want you to know that Psychology Today is actually openly prioritizing Psychology Today ads that have a video profile component in them. So if you haven't done it already, you can see here that there are ways that you can add a video in there. And then when clients click that video, then you come full screen. Now it should just be, and this is how and where you do it. You go into edit profile and you do the video intro. But I will tell you again, it's like a 30-second video. It's really not much. So once again, your wonderful little elevator pitch, you're just saying something like, "Hi, I'm Dr. Chloe. Thanks so much for checking out my Psychology Today. I work with clients who are X, Y, and Z. I hope you'll contact my office so we can talk more," right? You don't have to say too much, but you do want to convey a sense of energy, right? Because you're building rapport with people. And those of you who are familiar with the Therapeutic Alliance know that rapport is one of the primary ingredients to therapeutic success with high functioning clients in particular. So, really think about the way that you're coming across in that video. It's going to be so much less about even the words you say than the energy that you say it with, so that some other client out there who's a live wire, a busy person, they have a job, they have this, that, and the other thing. They're looking for somebody who can keep up with them and who seems to have kind of an energetic, can-do type of attitude. Generally speaking, again, this is just my experience and what has worked very well for me in my practice to attract, more clients than than we can handle, to the point where we, refer out, we raise fees, we do whatever it is that we need to do that makes sense for us from a business standpoint. But I'll just say attracting clients has never been a problem at all at my office. And these are some of the things that have worked for me. Now, your brand, okay, so tying it all together. So you have this Psychology Today ad. It kind of gives people a little bit of an idea of who you are. What you see here is a picture of me when I was a brunette. This is like, 10 years ago or whatever, when I was first starting my practice. And at this point, now that I'm more established, I will have, kind of like a little bit less formal pictures of myself. But when I was first starting, I was really trying to convey to people, hey, I'm a serious, actual, polished, professional doctor. So I had my business cards have a little bit of kind of a little bit of a serious look about them. My office space was serious. Even my photograph kind of all matched. And then also, once people are in your office, clients always, they love to write things down. At least they do in my office, because I hope you're giving homework and they're writing down things, that are important to them. And when they're doing it with, pens that have your name on them, and, pad of paper that has your name on it. At the new year as well, we would send out sometimes, like, this is a fridge magnet that has, the 2022 year on it. And of course it has your branding on it, mugs, all of that kind of stuff. People have those things, and they think of you, and that just, it helps you to stay on their radar. So again, you want to be thinking about the fact that these are intelligent driven people. They are going to do their due diligence as they should, right? If they're thinking about seeing you because they like your Psychology Today profile, you bet they're going to Google you, right? And why shouldn't they? I wouldn't probably see a therapist without Googling them first to, kind of learn a little bit about them. So you want to be able to shape a little bit about what they see. So for example, here's my LinkedIn profile, and I really dressed it up with all of my certifications and my volunteer experience and my book and everything else. And even if you maybe think that you don't have quite as much to put in there, I would really encourage you to think about that, because even from your training experiences and everything else, you probably have more than you think, right? You can get even recommendations on LinkedIn. There's a feature to ask for recommendations. Ask all of your clinical supervisors and everybody who's ever worked with you to say, so and so really shows amazing insight and drive and energy to help clients, etc. That really does help for potential clients that are researching you as they should, right? Um, Now, I also encourage you to consider having a book, because clients do like to, get a little bit of a slice of how you think. If you're not up for a whole book, no problem. Think about some blogs even. So think about, like, what are, say, 5 of the things that you're always telling clients, right? So, for example, if you're a relationship client and you're always telling clients, somebody who doesn't have time for you is not your ideal partner. And that's what you're always trying to teach your clients. Write a blog about it, right? And then when clients come to your website, I often have clients say, "Oh yeah, I really got into your blogs. It kind of gave me confidence that you think about things in a proactive way and that you're goal oriented." These are the types of things, in my experience, again, that people who have the means to pay for a private pay therapy session, they often tend to be people that are at least fluent in the professional world and who are somewhat goal oriented. And even those who are students, they tend to have some kind of idea of where they want to go professionally, and they tend to like to read and take in information. Just from a social psychology standpoint, you may know that intelligent people are most likely to be persuaded by information. Less intelligent people are most likely to be persuaded through emotional arguments. So the more that you can put in terms of just even what you think is simple, practical information is actually going to be very attractive to attracting clients to your practice. Those blogs will also work for your SEO, your search engine optimization, to start pulling traffic to your website organically. But it also really helps to have that stuff on your website so that when clients see you on Psychology Today and they click over to your website to see more, that they say, okay, this is an intelligent, thoughtful therapist. I really like what she has to say. Now, I'm going to be sharing with you a lot of ideas today. Sorry, the font is kind of funny there. But the point of this slide here is that I'm going to be throwing a lot of ideas at you. You probably have thought of, several ideas already, hopefully, that I'm mentioning to you that you haven't been doing, right? That's the goal of today. So if you're saying, oh, I'm not doing this stuff, it's so much, take heart, because that's actually good news, right? That means that there's a lot of things that you can do to grow your practice. What I used to do when I was first growing my practice, the part of this slide that you can see easily is that you can see I kept a list with 2 titles, one being cognitively demanding tasks and 2 being easy tasks. Both are good, right? And so on days when I didn't have clients yet because I was just starting out, and I literally started my practice with 2 clients. I would keep 2 lists, one of things to do when I was feeling really sharp and outgoing and ready to go, and another list of things to do when I was just not feeling it. But those were good things to have on my list because they were things that would have bored me otherwise. Things like setting up all of your social media accounts, just kind of the admin work, or pulling together the emails of all of your friends and family and business contacts and professors and everybody else that you think maybe you should put into your newsletter mailing list, right? Which we'll talk about a little bit later. But some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about here is going to sound to you like it's not really hard. It's not fun, but it's not hard. It's almost boring. Put that stuff in your easy list and do it when you're just feeling a little bit blah. And then the other stuff you can put in your cognitively demanding list, like reaching out to nearby potential referral partners and other things, writing blogs or whatever, when you're feeling a little bit more live wire-ish. One more quick tip on the blog front. You may want to also consider looking at your old papers for graduate school and seeing if you were to just summarize what those papers said in layman's terms, because you wanted to just tell your best friend what your paper was about. You can easily adopt your graduate school papers a lot of times into just consumer friendly blogs. Now, when it comes to your network, I want you to think about growing your network. If you're not a member, say, of your Chamber of Commerce or your professional organizations, by all means, please do. You may also want to consider getting involved with some charities or volunteer organizations, as well as, thinking about your friends' networks. So, when you're posting, say, your blogs or pictures of your new office space or just anything at all, you can think about getting your own network to start, resharing some of your stuff and getting it out there. That helps for many reasons. It not only, obviously increases the exposure of what you're putting out there, but it also makes your posts look better when potential clients see your LinkedIn post or see your business Facebook page, has some likes, has some reshares, right? It gives what psychologists call the social proof aspect, where people looking at it say, oh, other people are interested in this and interacting with it, why don't I, right? So also we've got things like even a daycare, your alumni organization, your house of worship, even your nail salon, right? So those are all places where you have a network that you may not even realize it, right? So suppose you go to the same nail salon every week. You can ask them, hey, do you have like a little place where people can put their business cards? Or, would you be interested in letting me come in and do like a little event about, self-care and self-esteem and the way we pay attention to ourselves, through grooming and things like that, how that actually really boosts our confidence, or whatever is relevant to your practice. Again, like suppose a daycare, right? Finding out, within the daycare, like, hey, like, do you feel like there's parents here that are maybe stressed out that could use talking to somebody? Could I give a free presentation here about stress management for working moms, or, that kind of thing? You can think outside of the box a little bit. And I'll share with you, it was kind of an interesting thing for me, the way I learned this. I didn't know this intuitively either, but I was working as a volunteer for the New York Junior League. I've been a volunteer my whole life, and I was doing some fundraising for them. And they helped me to really think about this. They said, you actually have a lot of people in your life that you can look at, for fundraising partnerships with us. And they helped me to realize this. Now, again, I'm sorry, the what part is a little bit grayed out for some reason. But what that's saying is what I was already mentioning is, you can give talks and presentations. You can do events, you can have open houses. A lunch and learn is also another really good one, right? So another thing I did is I made a radius of all of the doctors and potential referral partners within. It was a 5-mile radius, for me, but for you, wherever makes sense is fine. And you can do what's called a lunch and learn or a bagel breakfast, which again, I never knew these things until someone explained them to me. But suppose that there's a cardiologist office near and anywhere near you. They tend to refer a lot of people for therapy, for stress management, for panic disorder. A lot of people end up in the cardiologist because they think that they're having a heart attack, or again, they have high blood pressure because they have stress management issues. Or dermatologist office tends to have a lot of people with OCD issues. Plastic surgery offices may have a lot of people with self-esteem issues. These are just broad brushstrokes, obviously, but you can look at the places that are somewhat near to your office, especially, if you're doing telemed, then there's even bigger ways that you can connect with these offices and just say, hey, I'm a therapist nearby you. Could I bring in a bagel breakfast or do a lunch and learn where I tell you a little bit about my office and, leave some cards and some, pens. Because remember, we talked about the whole brand and tying it together. So you'll have pens and pads of paper and things that you can leave behind. And they actually really like that. I just want to share with you, it was a surprise to me, but they were like, oh, yes, thank goodness, because those doctors are busy. Time is money to them. So if they have a client that's just, kind of going a little bit outside the scope of a dermatology visit, the doctor doesn't want to say, hey, I don't have time for you, time for my next client, but they also don't really have the time or the skills to go deep with them either. So the doctor actually wants to be able to say, you know what, I think that you'd really benefit from some support around this. Here's the card of a local therapist. I think you should consider maybe a referral to her, right? So I just want you to think outside of the box. And when it comes to, say, your chamber of commerce, join it and then see if you can, give a free presentation to all of the members, again, about stress management for business owners or, goal attainment or how to balance work and family for busy professionals, whatever it is that's in your wheelhouse. Once you're a member of that organization, you could say, hey, I just really wanted to give back and share more about what I do in a way that I think could even be helpful to members, right? And I'm just telling you guys, I've personally done all of the things that I'm telling you about today, and they have worked for me, which is why I'm sharing them with you. So let's see here. I'm just going to go a little bigger on this slide. I think I've talked about most of the things on here, except for one thing, which is that when you do go, to a networking event, or if you're interested in one, you can just Google things like, networking events plus Sarasota, or wherever you are. And you might be surprised to discover that there's a lot of networking organizations out there. And so when you do go to a networking event, I want you to know another thing I needed someone to tell me, which is that manners are different at networking events. Believe it or not, I used to be very shy and I didn't want to do anything inappropriate or be intrusive. So I would go to those events and I would just kind of stand there shyly. And then someone said, you know what? It's good manners at a networking event that if you make eye contact with somebody, you should walk up to them, introduce yourself, say, hi, I'm Chloe. It's nice to meet you. Or if you're talking with somebody already at the networking event and you see someone kind of aimlessly wandering around, make eye contact with them and say, hi, I'm so-and-so. Once you have a little group going, just keep on growing it and keep on expanding it. And if you're talking to somebody at that networking event and, they're a lawyer, feel free to say, hey, if you're ever in a situation where you have legal clients and the stress is getting to them, or you think that there might be, certainly with divorce lawyers, again, I've networked with them as well, where you feel like maybe the client needs a little extra somebody to talk to, I hope you'll think of me. And then when you're exchanging cards with people, ask them, oh, thank you. Do you mind if I put you on my free monthly newsletter, right? Nobody's going to say no. And then you just make sure that you do have a monthly newsletter. Believe it or not, it's not super important what it says. The real function of the newsletter is to stay on their radar. Okay, so I had, for example, an accountant that I met at a networking event years ago. He put me on his monthly newsletter list. I didn't even open his emails most of the time. But then one day when I needed an accountant, I knew who he was. He was in my email box. All I had to do was punch in his name and go there, right? So your newsletter can be simple, so for example, like month of May, you can write things like, hey, as we're embarking on summer, it's time to think about relaxation. Here's 3 tips to, relax well. And I hope you're having a great summer, know I'm here for you anytime, and maybe include a couple of new things maybe that are happening at your office. It can be something as simple as we got a new sofa, like we're doing a new decorating, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be anything super big. The idea is just consistency, that you're staying on people's radar. Now, another thing I mentioned there is having a party, right? So there's me again as a brunette having a party. That one was a New Year's Eve party. That's why we're all dressed in black and raising glasses. But for example, right now, you might be thinking about marking your calendar to plan a back to school party in September. Now, obviously, we're not necessarily talking about truly going back to school, but a lot of people in September get that back to school energy and they start thinking about, what are your goals? What's on your syllabus, for this year? That's what my September newsletters are often kind of geared around. And I hope you don't even wait till September. You could certainly have a party sooner than that, right? So for example, you could think about one around Independence Day, like, asking people like, what do you want to be independent from? What do you want to liberate yourself from? We're having a party. Now, people don't often think of, therapist offices as having parties. And I will say we don't invite clients, okay? But I do invite all of my friends, all of my family, all of my business contacts, everybody I've been meeting at all of those, networking events and everything else. And as you'll see, it says here at the bottom, even if people cannot come, they do appreciate being invited, right? And then they tend to just, there's a thing in psychology called reciprocity, where because you're inviting them to your events and you're thinking of them, they just feel that much more likely to think of you when they may potentially have a referral. Now, to make sure you're really maximizing those parties, you'll notice everybody at my parties is wearing a name tag. And the name tag has my logo on it. It's super easy to do. Like, I printed those from my home computer. Also, you'll see that my logo is on the photographs, right? So one thing I also always do is I hire a professional photographer, and it doesn't have to be a expensive professional. It can be, somebody from a film school or, just your niece who loves photos, whatever, but have somebody whose job it is to go around taking nice pictures of people. And then again, it is super simple to just apply a template to that whole set of photos to overlay your logo and website onto the lower right-hand corner. Next step is you share those nice photos with those people, because people love nice, flattering photos of themselves, right? You can ask them as well, like, hey, we're going to be posting these on social media. What's your social media handle so that we can tag you, right? And then you're developing a sticky social media interaction with them. And then they're potentially likely also to hit the share button on those nice photos of themselves that have your logo and your branding on them. So these are just other ways that you can get yourself out there. Growing your network online is another one that I absolutely love to do. As a mom, I try to spend honestly as much time at home as I can. So I love when I can do things digitally. So what I did here is I did some panel discussions. Panel discussions are absolutely wonderful for therapists. So you could say if say an organizer and an accountant, you could do a panel with them like around tax time and say, hey, why don't we do a panel about like how to get through your tax season low stress? And, we'll have the organizer person talk about ways to organize and devote time to that. We'll have the tax person talk about, what they need and, any tips that they have. And I, as a therapist, will talk about, long-term goal setting and, stress management throughout the process, right? And then because it's a panel discussion and it's online, I would encourage you to use, there's a thing I use, it's called restream.io, but there's a lot of other ones you can do so that you can have your panel discussion go live on like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. You can go live everywhere. But if you don't feel like you even want to do all that much and you just want to do your panel discussion in Zoom and invite everybody in your network, maybe through your newsletter, then hit the record button on Zoom. And then you can share clips of it, like really good moments, like where there's a nice back and forth that feels helpful. Post that to LinkedIn because, again, in my experience, professional people who are functioning well, they tend to be on LinkedIn, right? And so when you're posting helpful, interesting content on LinkedIn, that it looks not only good to attract their eyeballs, but when they Google you and they see that you're active on LinkedIn, it tends to be a credibility booster for you. Plus, the people on your panel discussion will also be posting and sharing it to their LinkedIn. So you might consider trying to choose people for your panel discussion that have a good, strong following on LinkedIn or on Facebook or wherever it is that you think is a good spot for you. It's not a necessary thing that they have a good following, but it certainly, can be helpful. So just for the sake of time, I'm just going to keep moving here. But I just want to, again, really focus ourselves on asking that question. I know I'm asking you guys to think about getting out of your comfort zone and doing some things that maybe you haven't done before, but we have to remember the reason why we're thinking of doing this. A sustainable boost of client inquiries, right? Which is a wonderful thing, which, as we discussed earlier, helps you not only to take care of yourself, your student loans, your loved ones, but really also even to take good care of your community, to recognize that when you're putting yourself out there, it's not even just to help you, it's also to help you to be in front of the people that need you, to make it easy for them to know who you are. Okay. Now, social signaling, looking the part. So these are a series of headshots, that I've had over the years. One of the things I've noticed, because I do have programs that help therapists to attract clients, which you'll be hearing a little bit more about that, towards the end. And as a person who's hired therapists before as well, I've noticed that a lot of therapists kind of skip the part about their professional photograph. And I think that they're coming from a good place. They're thinking, oh, well, the focus doesn't need to be me, or it's not it's not a beauty contest. That's not what the focus is here. They're coming from a good place, but they're actually also, I think, missing something important, which is that the way that we groom and present ourselves is actually an important piece of social signaling, right? So, for example, if you were thinking about going to see a cardiologist and that person just had like a casual photo of themselves, or like maybe some picture of themselves where they were a bridesmaid at a wedding and they had their hair done because they were a bridesmaid, but you could just tell by looking at it that it was like not a professional photo for their professional life. It was just a nice photo of them from some other point in their life, right? It would kind of not put out exactly the polished, professional, dedicated function that you're really looking for when you're hiring a professional. So having good professional photos really conveys things, through your clothing and your grooming. You're signaling things about your health and your finances, that you are a stable person who takes good care of themselves and who does basic professional behaviors like hire a professional photographer, right, to represent you. So one thing also to just think about is to consider, say, 3 words for your personal brand. That when potential clients are just, seeing you on Psychology Today, what are the first 3 things that you want them to think when they see you, right? Do you want them to think polished, professional, warm, open, relatable? All of those things are good words, but try narrowing it down to 3 and then really ask yourself if your professional photo really does the best it could to convey all of those things. Now, also, we need to think about your actual office. Okay, so we're going to also talk a little bit about digital offices too, because I know that those are really important these days, especially. But in your actual office, the way it looks is important. So this is a photograph of one of my actual offices. I always had a water container in there. Again, I was a yoga teacher before I was a psychologist, but setting the stage that it's a well-stocked place that has, supplies like water and things like that just tends to make people feel comfortable and supported. And it shows, again, a little bit of forethought on your part in really making the place look good. I also always have a little mirror and an entry table there, because after, these people sometimes maybe have a good cry, they want to be able to look in the mirror. But it does not have to be expensive. As you can see here, I'm sharing that my first office I furnished almost entirely at Target, right? Definitely have your space clear of like papers, dust, clutter, food, even decor, right? So I don't want too much clutter in the place, or even like things on the wall that have kind of platitudes like live, love, and dance often or whatever. That just, it doesn't tend to create the type of clean, polished, sophisticated atmosphere that we're typically looking for. You'll also notice that my couch and my chair are always arranged at right angles to each other, so that I'm not just sitting there staring at somebody head on. Clients have sometimes said that they find that a little bit off-putting, so it just tends to work better in my office to have it at a right angle. Now, once you feel like you've got your office really looking good and you feel really proud of it, I would invite you to have what I call a feedback party. So that's where you would invite friends, family, whatever, come to your office and tell you, like, what are some things that they think that you could kind of kick it up a notch or polish or improve a little bit. And if they're just trying to be nice and they say, oh, nothing, nothing, then you can challenge them. You can say, look, if you had to spend $300, what would you do? Right now, I want to mention the food again, because I think some of us can get a little too comfortable in our offices. And I have had clients come to me leaving other therapists' office, and I've asked them, like, why are you leaving your previous therapist? A lot of times the reasons will be things like, well, they didn't really give me homework, or if they did, they wouldn't seem to remember it at my next session and I had to bring it up. I've also had them say it just felt kind of weird, like it smelled like food, there was food in there, it was kind of messy. I just felt like almost like a little bit of a down, feeling when I went in there. So just like we can have, nose blindness where we smell the same thing and we don't smell it fresh anymore, we can have eye blindness too. I really want you to think of your space as an extension of your body language. And as a therapist who's trying to project health and vitality and project yourself as a leader to clients who are seeking to grow in these areas of their life of managing their time and hitting their goals, usually a clean, orderly, good looking space helps to project that for you. Now, your digital office space definitely matters too these days. So you can see my background right now is a certain way. At one point in time, I actually also just had a picture of my physical office space, and I was able to just simply upload it into Zoom and use it as the background, when I was in session. So there's different ways that you can do it, but your digital office space really does matter. I want you to think carefully about what people see when they see that background. Now, also for your digital office space, I want you guys to see this is what my office at home where I am right now looks like. So having lights matters a lot, right? Not only for the way that you are going to look and come across to clients as bright and vivacious and energetic, but also because you are looking at your own face on camera. And when it looks bright and positive, that's going to be empowering to you. So let me just show you, for example, watch this so you can see the difference. Alexa, turn off Chloe's office lights.
Okay.
See, this is what it looks like this way. And it's okay. But especially as you can imagine, if it were getting into the evening and I just had a couple lamps here, it wouldn't have quite the same oomph as it does with the actual lights. And as a clinical psychologist, I can also tell you it's easier for people to hold their attention on something that is bright and well lit. So since we're already asking clients to kind of wrestle with hard thoughts and go deep, why not make it easy for them by having a nice, big, bright, easy image for them to focus on? Alexa, turn on Chloe's office lights.
Okay.
So you see, it may seem subtle or it may seem dramatic, just depending on your perspective, but I can tell you it definitely makes a big difference. As far as also setting the stage for success, at drchloe.com/Amazon, I have a lot of these types of things available, some of my favorite products. Now, as I mentioned already, we want to definitely have your video available on Psychology Today. But if you're also hoping to capture clients to do, well, I don't mean capture, but it's just a marketing term, like to capture their interest in you for video therapy, I would encourage you to have a whole page on your website that really shows, your video therapy. So this is not my Psychology Today ad. This is my actual website. And there I have a therapy and coaching by video, right? So that you can show clients that you're definitely comfortable and good at, the concept of video therapy. What I also do, because one of the kind of snags for people that are trying to build a good, strong video therapy practice is that they have issues where clients, they either log in late or they get confused or whatever, and then it just gets the whole session off to a difficult start. So what I do is when we book their appointment, I actually encourage them to do a practice run of logging into the system and everything with one of my reception team members. So that way it just takes the stress out of it for them when it's time to do their actual, session. Now, for those of you who are maybe a little bit more shy and you're wondering like, okay, I do want to put myself out there, but are there kind of more quiet ways I can do it? Or there might be some of you who actually love the spotlight and feel totally comfortable putting yourselves out there. Either way, social media and major media can definitely be your friend. So we've already talked about, your newsletter and setting up, your social media profiles. Also for those blogs, I would encourage you, it says there, repost them. So once you have a blog, it's on your website. Make sure that you maximize that. You put it on LinkedIn, you put it on medium.com, you put it on blogger.com. There's a lot of places that don't mind at all that you're posting the very same content over and over and over. They just want the content. It helps them. Now, what that also does is it helps you from a search engine optimization perspective, because all of those places are also having a link to your website, which means that if somebody is searching, say, therapist in Marina Del Rey, and you're a therapist in Marina Del Rey along with 500 other people, how does Google decide which person to put at the top? There's a lot of factors in that, but one of them is how many quality inbound links are there to your website. So if you can have a lot of places, again, like Blogger, Medium, whatever, in my products, I, sell like lists and more information about that too, but you can also just Google to find them. Put that content out there because it will put more inbound links to you. Plus, it helps to shape and control what clients see when they Google your name. Then they see, oh, she's on blogger.com, she's on medium.com, she's on all these different places. Now, if you're also interested in, going to the next level and getting quoted in the media, which personally I've been, in national television more times than I can count. My book is doing very well with its endorsement from Deepak Chopra. And the way that I got my, break in that department, I'll just say I never had any media experience prior to starting my practice. And I went to a website called Help a Reporter Out. Help a Reporter Out, that's what it says, HARO there. And there'll be journalists there that are seeking people to give them quotes. Oftentimes they're seeking quotes from therapists. So they'll be saying like, oh, I'm doing an article for Valentine's Day. I need to talk to a therapist to find out like, what should single people do to like get through Valentine's Day? So you provide some short, simple, sweet little quotes and tidbits for them. And then they use them and they'll link to your website, which is great. And then you grab their email address and say, oh, thank you so much. Can I put you into my monthly newsletter? So that, again, they'll be starting to think of you proactively when they need a quote because you're on their radar because, they're seeing your newsletter every month. Also, when it comes to social media and, using your network, you really realize that it's bigger than you think. So just like we talked about how your network is bigger than you think, you can reflect that on social media. So for example, when I make those donations to Kiva, then I make sure that I tweet and I say, oh, my donations to Kiva. I'm so proud to be able to support this. I encourage everybody else to donate to Kiva with a link to Kiva. And then next thing you know, Kiva's retweeting me, and other people I tag in the posts are retweeting me. So again, if you do get quoted in a magazine, get that journalist's Twitter handle or social media handle, post the article and tag them and say, thank you at Steve Smith for the quote in at, Women's Health or whatever is the publication. I'm on the advisory board for Women's Health magazine. So that's why I mentioned that one, but obviously whatever works for you. Now, I know we're coming towards the end of our time here, so I will just kind of skip to the end. There's so much more to say, so I definitely hope to come back again another time and share more. But I do just want to take a moment also and share with you about my Dr. Chloe for clinicians products. So you can see that QR code there at the bottom. You can get 20% off of any of my products today with the code ICANNOTES with that promo code. I have video courses, documents and templates, and those are on the business side. And then on the very last thing you'll see there, I have a video workshop about how to work with high functioning clients, because that was another thing I noticed that they didn't really seem to cover in graduate school was, techniques and approaches that specifically tend to engage and hold and generate referrals even from high functioning clients. I'm very happy to say that a lot of the business in my practice is even referrals from previous clients. So I'm going to share just a little bit more about my video course here as well. We talk about things like how to get clients and a lot of the things that we've been talking about here, but we just go, obviously a lot more in depth. And then we also have some helpful documents and templates, things that I kind of had to figure out the hard way as I developed my practice over the years, social media, calendar, and all that kind of stuff. And this is that workshop I mentioned where I teach people how to do the therapy techniques that I tend to find are helpful with clients in my office. And then the practice in a box, really does it all, but we get 20% off on that today. And then, of course, my book about nervous energy, harness the power of your anxiety. And you'll see there that what I'm doing is consistent with what I was sharing with you guys, which is that I come from a strengths-based perspective, right? The name of the book is not, debilitating anxiety and how you can survive despite it. The book is nervous energy, how to harness the power of your anxiety, right? So that's just, again, an approach that has worked for me in my practice. Once again, the code is ICANNOTES, and that QR code will take you there, or drchloe.com/for-clinicians ICANNOTES. And I think we'll be sending you guys an email as well. Now, I can take a couple minutes here for questions if anybody wants to ask any questions or comments about what I'm saying. Also, I would love to connect with you guys on social media. If you just drchloe.com/hello, they'll have links to all of my social stuff. And once again, there's that big QR code. So with that, I guess, and then here's about ICANNOTES. So we'll definitely save some time for that as well. But are there questions that I can answer?
Dr. Chloe, there was one question about what products you use to enhance your online presence, like your lighting products.
Yeah, so those are actually linked specifically at drchloe.com/Amazon, drchloe.com/Amazon. It goes to my Amazon store. And I would really suggest to all of you build your own Amazon store. It's free to do. And then, like, suppose that you have certain relationship books or things that you're always suggesting to clients, like you got to read this book or that book, or maybe you're saying, hey, to relax, get yourself a weighted blanket, or like an eye pillow to help you to sleep at night, whatever different types of products you're always recommending, just put them into your Amazon store. You can Google like how to create a free Amazon store, and then you can set your own website up. So I say drchloe.com/Amazon will just auto forward directly to my Amazon store. And it is, you as therapists, you would want to make sure that you do tell clients, because we have special ethical requirements that we would want to tell them. I do get like literally a few pennies if you buy something through my Amazon store, but that's not the reason I made it. I made the Amazon store so that it's just an easy way for people to know like what products exactly I like, because it's just, otherwise I'm constantly writing down products and things and books and things for people, and maybe my favorite ones change over time. And so the Amazon store, I think, is the easiest way to do it. So are there other questions, or shall we flip to the ICANN notes?
I am not seeing any other questions at the moment.
Okay, so let me flip to ICANN notes.
So we just got a quick poll. For those of you that listened, you've got a lot of good information, ready to start bringing in some clients. So just wondering how many of you are interested in keeping up with your documentation once you have those clients coming in. It looks like you're all Iconotes users, so that's great. Well, if you are interested in learning a little bit more about Iconotes and how it can help you work through that documentation once you start bringing more of those clients in, using all of Dr. Chloe's strategies there, we do have a 30-day trial offer, which we will go ahead and put up on the screen here, and we'll allow you to just go ahead and click on that to take you straight to sign up for information on the 30-day trial. So please do take advantage of that. And if you have any questions for Iconotes, feel free to email us at sales@iconotes.com, and we'd be glad to help you out. And you also will be receiving some information from Dr. Chloe directly. So we appreciate you attending. We appreciate you, Dr. Chloe. You had excellent advice today. And we look forward to seeing how you can all put that into play.
Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. And again, even if you're not interested in buying any products, we have lots of free, just blogs and things. So take care, therapists. Know that we are in this together.
Dr. Chloe, there was one other question about whether you would be sharing the slides with the attendees. I didn't know if you were sending those out.
I don't share my slides. However, I know that we're going to be sharing a recording of this webinar, so you'll be able to watch the webinar as many times as you would like. Like I mentioned, I also have a lot of other, videos and things available, through my website as well. But you can also watch this free recording as many times as you like.
Excellent. Thank you. Right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your attendance.
Have a great day.
Bye.